conference and protest. My name is Wasik Javid. I'm the founder and president of Students for Imam Jamil. Before we begin, I just want to set a few ground rules just to make sure everyone is safe and secure. We have cones set up here in the front. We ask everyone to stay in front of the cones and no one come near the steps or anywhere past it. Next, we're going to have our National Lawyers Guild or our legal observers who will give a training on Know Your Rights, as well as our EMT who will give an emergency presentation for everyone to be ready. And if everyone can gather here in the front, I think it'll populate the crowd and all the speakers can see. Just be spread out all the way across, and that'll be amazing. So I'd like to start off with Abby from National Lawyers Guild, who will give a Know Your Rights presentation.
Can everybody hear me? I'm very short, so I'm just going to bend this. My name is Abby. Welcome to Tucson. Welcome to Otham and Yaqui Land. We're glad to have you here. Everybody in the green hats here are legal observers. So we are here to monitor the police, not you, to make sure that your right to gather and your right to protest is protected. We have little cards that we're handing out if you want one. They have our contact information, including the legal hotline number, which I also have written on my arm here. It's 477-2654, but we'll give you the cards. If anybody is arrested or needs legal support and can't find somebody in a green hat right away, you can call that number. And again, we have cards, we'll give those out. We should be spread throughout the crowd, so if you have any questions, you can come find us. We might also be walking around just seeing what's going on with law enforcement. The very brief Know Your Rights training that I'm going to give you is mainly don't talk to the cops. So do not consent to a search, ask to speak to a lawyer, and do not speak to police. That's pretty much it. It's also on our cards. So welcome. We're happy to have you all here. Come find us if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Abby. And up next, we're going to have Sunny from our EMT in the back corner, and she'll give a medical emergency preparation presentation.
I'm Son. Some of you may know me. If you're not local, then this will be your first time interacting with us. We are SASMA, the Southern Arizona Street Medic Alliance. And what we do is we provide volunteers with different levels of medical training to attend protests and make sure that if any health issues should occur, you guys will have somebody on the ground with you to immediately see to you. Generally, in Tucson like this, our #1 enemy is the heat. So we just want to advise that you guys keep an eye on each other. If anybody starts to feel faint or dizzy or disoriented, if you notice that you're sweating way too much for the weather, then you may have early onset heat sickness. We are set up in the corner right over here. We have water, which has also been placed around for all of you guys. We also have sports drinks. You're going to be sweating because of the humidity, so make sure that you take one, because otherwise you're going to lose all your electrolytes and you're going to start feeling faint. If you have any other issues, for instance, if you need a snack or if you need somebody to check for a sugar issue, please come over and see us. We would 100% rather have a bunch of false alarms than have anybody get hurt. So that's all. Thanks.
And just a reminder for everyone, stay hydrated. We have water here to my left, to y'all's right, and we have snacks in the back. I want to begin about how I first learned about Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly known as H-Rap Brown. A year ago, I had the honor to meet Khairi Al-Amin, the son of Imam Jamil, who's gathered with us. And I asked myself, why am I learning about Imam Jamil now? Why am I learning about a black revolutionary, a civil rights activist, a leader who galvanized and mobilized African Americans in this country in the 1960s, who is prominently known all across the country as the 5th chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee? He was the Minister of Justice between the Black Panther Party and SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Everyone knows Congressman John Lewis. Everyone knows Stokely Carmichael. Everyone knows Malcolm X. Everyone knows Martin Luther King. But nobody knows about H. Rap Brown. Nobody knows who Imam Jamil Al-Amin is. And that's because when you have a leader that is black, when you have a leader that is Muslim, when you have a leader that can galvanize folks and take them on out to the streets and call them to the oneness of God, that is a threat to the establishment, a threat to the status quo, a threat to those in power who know that we have to do one thing. We have to execute our leaders as they did to Malcolm, as they did to Martin, or we have to frame them and make sure that the next generation does not know who our leaders are. The true revivalists, the true revolutionaries, they're either dead or they're in prison. For people like myself in my early 20s, I don't have a leader. In the United States of America, I do not have a leader who is calling me to greater ideals of justice, to greater ideals of truth, to greater ideals of peace. I don't have that. So today, right here in Tucson, Arizona, 20 minutes away from United States Penitentiary, Tucson, where one of our leaders has been wrongfully imprisoned for 21 years. And the man that confessed to the crime has confessed multiple times through an affidavit, a written affidavit, and on camera, on trial, before a court. He has maintained his confession, and Imam Jamil Al-Amin has maintained his innocence. So how are we here 21 years later and Imam Jamil has had cancer, he's had strokes, he's now legally blind, and alhamdulillah, just a few weeks ago he got surgery on one eye so he can only see through one eye? How come the media cannot interview him? How come it's so hard for Kyrie to speak to his father? Because he's 1,400 miles away from Atlanta, Georgia, his home base. So that way he cannot be in communication with anyone. So his legacy can be erased from history. So the public and those who are socially conscious forget about him. But everyone here today, everyone here who is gathered, we're going to prove that wrong. We're going to prove that wrong. We're going to show everyone that's watching, everyone with their cell phone cameras, the media is here. We're going to show everyone watching that today we're calling for Imam Jamil to get his medical treatment for his second eye. We're calling for him to be transferred from Tucson, Arizona back to home, back to Atlanta, Georgia, as his case is being reviewed through the Fulton County Conviction Integrity Unit. And we're here calling for the freedom and the exoneration of Imam Jamil Al-Amin. Everyone here gathered is a testament to Imam Jamil, is a testament and a witness to his work and his legacy. So let's make sure that everyone here is present, is active, that you tell everyone here after you're gathered about this protest, about this press conference. Make sure you're taking pictures, videos, tag @_free Imam Jamil on Instagram, on Twitter, @free Imam Jamil on Facebook, under Students for Imam Jamil. Get the word out. Make sure this is filmed, because if the media doesn't show up, we got our own. I want to bring up none other than the son of Imam Jamil, Kyrie Al-Amin, a dear brother of mine, Brother Kyrie.
Back again. Assalamu alaikum to the Muslim folks out here. Hello, thank you to those who are not. It's much appreciated. Like Wasik said, about a year ago I ran into him, so I just want to give him some love because this fight's been my fight, personal fight. Yeah, I've had, other people involved, but this is my father, so it's been a personal fight for me for 21 years. About 3 years ago, my father asked me to take over the public outreach portion of his campaign. And my goal was to kind of try to transition us into the 21st century and get us on the internet and get us on social media and those kind of things. And through those efforts, I was able to meet Wasik. And Wasik has taken so much pressure off my shoulders. I did an interview recently and was one of the first interviewers who asked me, if I was tired, and I don't think about it until, the question's asked. And so I was like, yeah, no, like very extremely tired. But it's worth it, and it's worth it, especially when you run into people who do the work like Wasik. There's another person here who I can't not mention, Sister Maha. She's an attorney and also an activist who's they've been extremely beneficial to me and to the cause. And this turnout of people who are Muslim, people who are black, white, whatever, from all walks of life and all the way across the country here in Tucson, it tells us that the work is working. The other thing that tells us that the work is working is, my father got a visit the other day from some representatives from Homeland Security and some representatives from the FBI here in Tucson. They flew from DC to come see him here in Tucson because they heard about this event that we were organizing. And initially we were planning on having it at the prison, but we moved it because of potential adversary actions from them. And so we're doing the job. The job is being done, and they understand that they're in the wrong, but we have a couple of things that just have to be addressed. We should never have had to come to Tucson. My father is not a federal prisoner. And so while we're also talking about guilt and innocence and exoneration, we have to talk about fairness. He hasn't been able to participate in his own defense in 21 years. And so a lot of people say, oh, he's never proved his innocence. You haven't heard him speak at all, and it wasn't an accident. They told us he cannot speak to the media, and not only can't he speak to the media, he's too high profile to stay in Georgia, so we're gonna move him across the country, even though he's in the midst of appeal after appeal after appeal. Unfortunately, now we're currently being reviewed by what's called the Conviction Integrity Unit in Georgia. They have the ability to overturn this entire case without us ever having to go back to trial. They have the ability to give us a new trial. We'll take either one of those options because the law is on our side. But it's impossible for us to win that without him being a part of the defense. And so that's one of the main reasons why we felt like we had to come have this demonstration, this rally, this press conference here in Tucson, because I don't think Tucson, the local area, knew or knows that this is happening in their backyard, that they're paying for this to happen in their backyard. If you're paying taxes here, you're involved, and so your voice matters. These folks standing behind us, they're gonna let folks know how many people were here, and it's very important that we begin to show up and show out. We gotta show up and show out for our leaders like we show up and show out for our celebrities. If this was your favorite rapper, it'd be 100,000 people out here because we've seen it already. We saw it with Meek Mill a few years ago. If it's your favorite rapper, he'd be out of jail because we show that we care, and that's what it takes now. And so that's what this is. This is the beginning of, and inshallah, God willing, it continues to grow. But I'm sure, if you're here, I appreciate you for being here. You've probably seen me and heard me speak enough. There are a lot of people here that I'm appreciative of who have flown from around the country. And again, I'm tired. Like this thing is weighing on me. It's heavy, but inshallah, the weight will be lifted soon, and he'll be able to walk out those doors and spend the rest of his life on this side of the wall. So I appreciate y'all once again, and I'm going to hand it back to Wasik.
When I say free Imam Jamil, y'all say right now. Free Imam Jamil.
Right now.
Free Imam Jamil.
Right now.
Free Imam Jamil.
Right now.
Up next we have Sister Maha Al-Kaloli, one of the co-organizers for this event. Is she here? Oh, there we go. Sister Maha Al-Kaloli, I've had the honor of meeting in this past year of organizing students for Imam Jamil. She's been such a blessing to be here and help co-organize this event. I want to hand it off to her and not speak so many words because she's going to light this mic up.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulullah. I seek refuge in Allah from misguiding and being misguided, from betraying and being betrayed into ignorance by others. I ask Allah to guide my heart and to guide my tongue. In the name of Allah, we begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I want to thank you all because this is a great moment. Tyree and his mother have been fighting this battle alone for so long. And it's an uphill, emotional battle for me, and this isn't even my father. But what we're missing is really an understanding of what we're fighting for. Imam Jamil Al-Amin, yes, he's an imam. He was a leader of the Muslim community that laid the foundation for our national organizations. USCMO is here, representative of ISNA, ICNA, MANA, all of the national organizations. He was a civil rights leader. He spoke truth to justice. This is a spiritual warrior. He fought for civil rights. He fought for black liberation. He empowered people. But when he became Muslim, he focused on human rights. This is a human being, this is a servant of God who ultimately would fight for the rights of any human being, who would advocate against injustice in the face of any threat. We absolutely cannot abandon this man. He's 77 years old, maybe 78, 77. He's extremely medically fragile. And I have to tell you, you hear the rumors, you see them on Facebook, you hear the chatter, but when you see the documents, and you see the evidence, and you see the appellate court scolding the prosecutor for misconduct, but their hands are tied by evidentiary rules, as a lawyer you start to wonder, what is justice? When you have somebody who has confessed to this crime in Fulton County 21 years later has not fully investigated that confession. Why have you not investigated the confession of Otis Jackson? He's in custody, he's accessible. There's evidence that corroborates that confession. Why does America not know about this political prisoner? So I'm gonna try to be short because this case is near and dear to my heart. But the evidence is overwhelming. And I would never stand here and advocate for someone if I felt they committed the crime that he was wrongfully convicted of. And don't get it wrong. We sympathize with the families of the victims of that incident. But this is America. And we say we stand on certain principles. So Imam Jamil Al-Amin is a representative of us as a nation. He is the embodiment of American history, sitting in a cage at USP Tucson. Question number one, why is a Georgia state prisoner in federal custody? Question number two, why was he in isolation for over 16 years? Have we done away with our 8th Amendment? With our understanding that as a nation, we don't believe in cruel and unusual punishment? Have we done away with the fact that when you have a prisoner, that we have an obligation to provide them with proper medical treatment? Why does it take a movement to move him from where he was at the Supermax to USP Tucson because he was being executed by medical neglect? Why did it take that? And why does it take this to get something as simple as cataract surgery? Records show that they knew since 2017 that he was at risk of glaucoma, which is irreversible blindness. If it's not treated properly, they didn't even properly test him. Since 2018, every optometrist, every ophthalmologist said, he needs cataract surgery or he will go blind. And when I got to Kyrie, he was blind in one eye, which is unacceptable. That is not what America stands for.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
In theory. So we have to live up to the theory that they say we stand for. By the time we filed suit, he was blind in both eyes and stumbling in the prison and getting hurt. This is our leader, a civil rights leader who stood in the 1960s. He is our bridge to the civil rights movement from the 60s to today's civil rights movement. And he has a gag order so that we don't know his history. Don't rob us of the real American history. We celebrate Dr. King today. Dr. King wasn't always loved. He was subjected to the same surveillance that Imam Jamil is subjected to. It's unconstitutional. So I'm going to end with, we thank Congress for introducing a bill to release the documents of COINTELPRO. And we hope that they look at those documents. There are so many injustices. Dr. King, Malcolm X, Billie Holiday, Imam Jamil Al-Amin. Look at the documents and make this right. You can make it right. It's a simple request. Give him back his second eye and do it expeditiously, not another 4 years. Number one. Number two, transfer him back to Georgia. I don't care how, just get him back to Georgia so that he can interact with family, so he can interact with counsel, so he can interact with the Fulton County Conviction Integrity Unit that is looking at his case and needs access to him, and exonerate him and make this wrong right. 21 years is more than enough. Assalamu alaikum.
I just want to touch on some points that Maha shared. It's August of 2021. 10 months ago, we were in Atlanta, Georgia, with Killer Mike, rappers Killer Mike, rappers T.I., civil rights activist Linda Sarsour, with Dr. Yusuf Salam, the Exonerated Five, as you may have found out through Netflix's When They See Us. And I'll be honest, Atlanta, y'all weren't there. Tucson, we're here. But look around you. We have to make sure that everyone that is not here knows about Imam Jamil Al-Amin, knows who A-Trap Brown is, and make sure that we rewrite history and not wait for the next movie, not wait for the next documentary, not wait and Allah forbid, God forbid, for Imam Jamil to pass and then he's famous. We have to make sure that he's free right now. Free Imam Jamil.
Right now.
Free Imam Jamil.
Right now.
Free Imam Jamil.
Right now.
Up next, we have Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE Arizona, the Executive Director, Azza Abu Saif.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
Time is neutral and does not change things. With courage and initiative, leaders change things. One of my favorite quotes by Reverend Jesse Jackson. Thank you to all the leaders and activists with us here today that have never given up on Imam Jamil and bringing him home safe to his family. Imam Jamil, my heart hurts for you, for the years that you've spent paying for something you did not do. I'm deeply sorry. The community is sorry. I'm sorry it's taking this long to give you the justice you deserve. I'm sorry your health was neglected. I'm sorry for the family meals you missed. I'm sorry for every Ramadan and Eid you missed. I'm sorry for the birthdays you did not get to celebrate with your loved ones. I'm sorry for the sunrises and sunsets you have missed. I'm sorry for the raindrops you have not felt in 21 years. I'm sorry for the days you needed to speak to someone and was alone. I'm sorry for the hugs you missed. And I'm sorry for the amount of mental strength you needed to build to survive in there. And Kyrie, I am so sorry that you had to spend 21 years of your life without your father being around to see all the big and small achievements that you have made. We're not going to give up on Imam Jamil. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Azza. It's going back to Atlanta, just because I just want to show y'all the time frame. On October 10th of 2020 was Imam Jamil's birthday. And 10 months later, we're in the same place. 10 months later, we're in the same place. He's about to be 78 years old in 2 more months. I don't want to keep protesting year after year for Imam Jamil. I don't want to keep going city to city, calling on this elected official, calling on that elected official to make sure that we're here. COINTELPRO, what Sister Maha was referencing to, for those who are unaware, was an FBI covert operation that targeted civil rights activists in the 1960s. And they did that because when you execute an intellectual, when you frame an intellectual, then common people like yourself and me, we can't think. We can't out-organize. We can't outsmart. We can't out-revolutionize what our government, what our federal agencies are set out to do. To divide and conquer. To divide and conquer. So we cannot be united. Imam Jamil was someone who united everybody. Not just African Americans. USCMO we have here today, United States Council on Muslim Organizations. Imam Jamil was one of the founders of that organization, which unified all diverse backgrounds of the Muslim community today in the United States. That's the black community, the immigrant community, the Arab community, the South Asian community. Because when you have someone uniting others, that builds power. That builds structure. That builds leadership. And that's why we need Imam Jamil free. Next up, we have Black Lives Matter Phoenix Metro, Mimi Araya. Keep clapping, keep clapping, keep clapping. Give it up for Mimi.
Thank you, and thank you everyone so much again for coming out here. Today we are here to draw attention to the injustices that Imam Jamil and his family has faced due to the continued devaluation of black voice, black thought, black action, and black life in this country. We understand Imam Jamil's imprisonment to be a result of a white supremacist institution trying to silence a revolutionary. We cannot continue to allow this happen. Imam Jamil believed the courts to be a tool of oppression. That is what we are witnessing today. The state's oppression of a black activist and community leader. So we demand for the courts to finally provide Imam Jamil with proper medical treatment to get him out of the hands of the federal government at the United States Penitentiary here in Tucson and back in Georgia, where he can be exonerated and freed. In his name, we are here today to say that we will not be silent.
Yeah.
You cannot silence You cannot silence Black radical activists, organizers, and community members. We are here and will continue to be here yelling and speaking the truth about the injustice that this nation has called Imam Jamil and Black political prisoners all over this world. COINTELPRO's role in creating the conditions for political repression, imprisonment, and the state violence that led to Imam Jamil being incarcerated for an act that he did not commit must be named and accounted for. This is the same counterintelligence program that killed Malcolm X, that killed Fred Hampton, that killed Martin Luther King Jr., and many, many more. We want justice. We want an end to the state surveillance of incarceration and murder of Black activists and community organizers. We want our elders free, and we need the release of Imam Jamil, and we need it now. Black power for all Black people is what he and we stand for. Black power and Black liberation, which is the greatest threat to this unjust prison system and the American empire. And as much as these anti-Black white supremacist systems, institutions, and people cannot stand to see the sight of Black power or liberation, we will continue to build it. Be it. And fight for it. And until Imam Jamil is free, none of us are free. That's right. So let's all do our part and continue to organize around giving him the freedom he deserves. Free Imam Jamil! Right now! Free Imam Jamil! Right now! Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. That was Mimi from Black Lives Matter. We all know Black Lives Matter nationwide. The struggle for Black liberation because of the unjust and wrongful deaths of people from our government. Imam Jamil Al-Amin in the 1960s laid the foundations for Black Lives Matter to be here today. He was the one organizing to get people, organizing for voting rights, organizing as a student nonviolent coordinating committee chair, organizing for Black power, in his days as H. Rap Brown. Today, while we're struggling in the fight for voting rights across the country, it's leaders like Imam Jamil who if they were here today on the streets, will be the ones calling us to truth, will be the ones calling us to mobilization, will be the ones calling us to not trust our political entities in Washington. Because we need our own independence. And that's what Imam Jamil, he said in his last sermon, one of his last sermons before he was in prison. He knew that we can't rely on the Democrats just as much as we can't rely on the Republicans. And he knew that we needed our own independent political party to establish truth through Islamic principles in this country, to establish truth and justice in this country. And that's one of the reasons he's behind bars today. Up next, we have Living United for Change in America, Lucha, Faith Ramon. Give it up for Faith. Keep it clapping, keep it clapping.
Thank you everyone for showing up this evening and welcome everyone to my ancestral land. My name is Faith Ramon. I am Tana Optum from Kyoto. I fight and I work alongside my community of Tucson as an organizer with Lucha. As a mother, as a grandmother, as an active member of the Native American Church of Southern Arizona, and as a convicted felon. I've been in the federal facilities for injustice, with health conditions with no access to the decent health care and the resources that I deserve. I'm here today because too many of our brothers and sisters are suffering and forced to be silenced. For the past 30 years, our governor and our state legislator have been cutting funding for public services. We live in an economy where our tax dollars are being used to increase funding for Arizona's prison systems. Instead of investing in prisons, let's invest in a people's economy that works for all of us. Yeah. Not correctional facilities and not the wealth. We will be free when we dismantle the criminal system that steals our childhood, that murders Black and brown people of color, and locks up my community for being poor. Communities of color deserve affordable health care and freedom to control our own bodies. This will only happen if our health care is no longer controlled by big pharmaceuticals and insurance companies that profit from our pain and our illness. But today, we are here standing in solidarity for Jamil Al-Amin, for leaders that were wrongfully imprisoned or killed, for our loved ones that are awaiting trial, for my little brothers and sisters that walk the streets to start a movement, for our unborn children who deserve the highest quality of education and fresh water. I'm here today to reclaim my power, my voice, my liberation. From Arizona to Georgia, across the nation, it's time to rebuild communities, people. Yeah! It's time that we take back the seats. Yes. We know who our target is. Let's mobilize, educate, not just register people to vote, but make sure they show up. Yeah. My ask today is for immediate release of all political prisoners. Starting with a fair trial and compensation of Imam. Share his story. Support the hard work that the family has done. Most important, let's stay in community. Stay in power. Yes. Sapo. Yeah. Woo.
Next up, we have Imam Jamil Action Network, IJAN. And as the president of Students for Imam Jamil, I want to give my respects and my honor to IJAN for the work they've done from the very beginning. From the day Imam Jamil was wrongfully arrested, from his trial, for 21 years in the streets of Atlanta and Philly, and cities all across the country. IJAN in California. IJAN meets weekly, monthly. They remember his name. They're there reviving his history. I want to bring forth Lakeem Winborn, who is the local coordinator of IJAN, Imam Jamil Action Network from Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Lakeem.
Come forward to give honors to Allah and ask a question. If my father were in prison, what would I do? Like Hari Al-Amin, stand up and call on everyone else to. If my father were in prison, what would I do? Stand up like Talib and carry on the mantle of Dr. Matulu. If my father were in prison, like Hanifa, I'd do the same too. Fight for justice like my dad did too. If my father were in prison, I would do all but beg you to stand with me and make the calls, do all the things we need to see it through. If my father were in prison for something that he did not do, I'd ask everyone everywhere to fight for his freedom and see our freedom fighter through. If my father were in prison, I'd cry to Allah, Ya Rab, please free my Abu. Then turn around and use my talents and everything else that I can to keep pushing through. If my father were in prison, what would I do? If your father were in prison, what would you do? If it was your Amu, what would you do? Well, he is your Amu. This is your uncle. He's our freedom fighter, and his freedom is yours and mine too. This time till it's won, let's see it through. So right now I ask you, what more can we do? He is my father, he is my brother, he is my imam, he is my abu and my amu. So I ask Allah to guide me in all the things that I do. What's the next thing that I should do? And my amu says that I should pray for him, that we should pray for him, and that his freedom is our freedom too. And as Wasik said, I'm Lakeem Winborn Bey. I'm the local representative of IJAN, Imam Jamil Action Network, the campaign to free Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly known as H-Rap Brown. As he said, we are on the ground, and I must say that, like, the work that he's done has sparked things. The work that he's done, he talked about being in Atlanta a year ago, or October of last year. I can say that since August of last year, a year ago now, we started having rallies. The next rally came up in October, and we kept moving. We've been moving. Since then, we've been on the ground as a grassroots organization. Every week we are at a different activity. Every week we're at a different community event. We're an organization of organizations. The Moorish Science Temple of America, the Workers' World Party, Arts Exchange, WRFG, all kinds of organizations support us and we support them. And so that's my call right now. Like Wasik said, it's about unity. Our vision for the IJAN in Atlanta is building alliances of unity to free Imam Jamil in 2021. Not next year, not, now, right now. That's what this is. That's why we're here. And so I call on you to link with me, link with each other, exchange information. There's social media mishap. Like there's no synergy here. This should be happening for us. So I've got some information over there. If you haven't signed a petition online, sign it in person now. People complain about that petition because the way it's worded, it calls out the people who stopped doing the work for him. But we say, we don't see nothing wrong with that. People did stop, and people need to step up now, and that's what's happening. So I got two chants for you. Free Imam Jamil. Right now. Free Imam Jamil. Right now. Free Imam Jamil. Right now. And when I say what's the call, say free them all. What's the call? Free them all. What's the call? Free them all. What's the call? Free them all.
Up next we have Brother Osama Jamal. He's the Secretary General of the United States Council on Muslim Organizations. That's the nation's largest Muslim entity with all the national Muslim organizations, MAS, IGNA, CARE, you name it. He'll name the rest of the 50 organizations that they have. And as I mentioned before, it's so important Brother Osama is here because in the early 90s, in the late 80s, it was Imam Jamil who founded this organization, who made sure that our different backgrounds are unified, and we have an organized system of practicing Islam in this country. So with that, I want to bring up Brother Osama Jamal.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. We have come here today to speak a name out loud that the would-be silencers of the sounds of the truth have tried to banish to the abyss of namelessness, along with the living soul that gives that name its being. In one breath, they declare to the world that the people live all together in the land of the free. Yet, under their breath, they seek to remove this name from the true annals of this land's dire struggle for freedom and equality, and to expunge along with it the righteous words and actions of the believing human being who chose that name. In one voice, they hailed this nation as the home of the brave, but in their stealthy whispers, they moved to delete his name from the truthful register of this country's most valorous profiles in courage, along with the bold deeds for justice selflessly performed by the man that this name will titles. The tongues of the name takers claim only to act in order to form a more perfect union. At the same time, their fingers work to rip from the noble roster of social enmity the name of this man, a man whose open words have for 7 decades heralded a common way to brotherhood, who has literally dedicated the deeds of an entire lifetime to uplifting those cast down by the heartless and to safeguarding the most vulnerable among us. No, this good name shall not be erased, nor shall we let them expunge the rightful claim of the man of this name to the true history of the righteous in their nation. So say this name with me. Imam Jamil Al-Amin.
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 We want our brother, our community leader, our dignified elder brought back to home to Georgia from his jail, and from his political dissidents exiled in the American Gulag in Tucson. We want this genuine American statesman to be healed by competent medical professionals and healthcare, from which he has been unconsciously and systematically deprived. We want this falsely incriminated American spiritual luminary of ours and civil rights forerunner completely vindicated of these fraudulent charges against him, and for which he has suffered in prison for 21 years. We want Imam Jamil Al-Amin totally and utterly exonerated. And why not? When another man has long ago come forward and confessed under oath that he was this crime's actual perpetrator. Why not? When the authorities knew about and beyond doubt that there has never been any evidence that links our brother to this heinous crime. Lift up your voices to the one God who never fails to answer the prayers of the oppressed, and say loud the name of Imam Jamil Al-Amin. Always say the name of Imam Jamil Al-Amin, who they want to erase his name from history. We are going to bring it back every single day. My brothers and sisters, let me tell you the English meaning of this wonderful and wonderfully chosen name from the Quran tells us that it is God alone who teaches humanity the names of all things. Jamil Al-Amin means the beautiful, trustworthy. Nothing could be more truthful for this name. He truly is. Free this beautiful heart and trustworthy human being, this American hero of the humble, this righteous brothers of ours, Imam Jamil Al-Amin. Wassalamu alaikum.
Following USCMO, I just want to read a quote from Imam Jamil from his book right here, Revolution by the Book. And I want everyone after this press conference, after this protest, every single person here in the audience to go online, go to Amazon, buy this book, Revolution by the Book. And the second one is by Hajj Maurice Khan. Is it a government conspiracy or not? The wrongful imprisonment of Imam Jamil. Buy his books. This is Imam Jamil's manifesto. on how he can bring revolution by the book, by the Quran, by the Sunnah, by the holy book of the Quran, so we know how God gave us the divine rule and law to implement justice in this country. So I want to read a short quote. He says, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, the mission of a believer in Islam is totally different from coexisting or being a part of the system. The prevailing morals are wrong. Their ethics are wrong. Modern Western philosophy has reduced man to food, clothing, shelter, and the sex drive, which means he doesn't have a spirit. In Islam, we're not talking about getting the poor to vote. We're not talking about empowering poor people with money. We're talking about overturning the whole thing, man. We're talking about overturning the whole thing, man. That was Imam Jamil Al-Amin. And we're here to show everyone that we're here to overturn his sentence. Free Imam Jamil.
Right now.
Free Imam Jamil.
Right now.
Free Imam Jamil.
Right now.
Up next, we have our last speaker from our local organizations. Rosalind Akins is the lead organizer with Mass Liberation. Bring it up for Rosalind. There we go. We got the whole entourage in the back. Give it up for Mass Liberation.
My name is Rosalind Akins. I'm an organizer with Mass Lib Arizona, but my name is not important today. The name that is important, say his name.
Imam Jamil.
Yes, say his name.
Imam Jamil.
2 decades have been caged, who have been kept in solitary confinement. But in that solitary confinement, he has not been silenced. That's why we're here, because we can hear his voice. We can hear his cry. And we're here to hold his tears and his heart. And we're here collectively, collaboratively in this space, honoring the work, the life, the struggle, the journey of who?
Imam Jamil.
Imam Jamil Al-Amin. We know that there's purpose in this journey. We're here. We want you to know that this is not a moment. I heard someone prior to me speaking saying that somewhere we fell off the radar, but we are here to rededicate the effort. This is not a moment, this is a movement, and this is the way things are flipped. When we show up, there's power. There is power in presence. And when we show up collectively, we are an abolitionist group, and that's why it happens when we understand why we're here. When we make the sacrifice to be here. People came from distances to be here. So certainly those that are across the street, those that are standing on this wall behind us, they need to know what their part is, even in the fight, right? Everybody put on the gloves. Everybody keep the boots on. It's time to fight like we have never fought before. They have a confession, and most times they do have a confession. But it's going to take us to be his feet, his hands, his eyes, his ears, his mouth. We have to be the movement of this man. We have to step up. Do not leave this place and say that you came to an event. This is not an event. This is about lives more than his life. There's other political prisoners that we are on a move for. And until it lands in our hearts and not in our heads, we will continue to be a stagnated community. We need the efforts, we need the fight, we need the agony of everyone here. Don't just tell your neighbor, tell the world. We are not going away. Continue to tell them we're not going away. And in solitary confinement, I can't even imagine what that's like. I can't even imagine what it's like to be in solitary confinement. But you know what it didn't do? It didn't take his power. It didn't take his voice and not giving him proper medical care. It made him more resilient. And we wake up every day with a full movement of all of our limbs. We get to do and go wherever we want to. But I challenge each one of you, wherever you go, you take the spirit of this man with you. You take the fight of this man with you. You take the struggle of this man with you. And don't you ever forget his name. It should be in the dictionary because it means revolutionary. It means love. It means commitment. It means dedication. It means win. It means win. He's never gonna lose, and we're part of that journey. Today, we get to make history. This is Black August, and what do you think about that? Look what we're doing in Black August. We have our own revolutionary history landmark to tell about what happened in Black August in Pima County. What happened? Community came together. Community said, we believe. I believe that we can win. I believe that we can win. And so I just want to say, from the inside, this brother still leads on the outside. Look who's around you. On the inside, it breaks my heart. On the inside, I am moved. I have a 24-year-old grandson who was arrested, and the way they handled him, they injured his hip, and he never got medical care for a year. And guess what? Now a full hip replacement. He went in a football player, and what will he come out? But you know what? That's why we fight. That's why we don't lay down. No one leave here today laying down. We will not lay down. We will rise. I want you to know he will never be silenced. He will never, ever, ever, ever will they ever steal his power. And we are only as strong as the weakest link. We better couple up some elbows around this place, and we better drag each other across the finish line, because we have to do this thing. We demand you transfer him back to Atlanta. The system is in the business of separating our families, whether it's DCS, it don't matter. Evil systems separate our families. Get him back to where he can fight legally, where he can fight. Oh, they say he's blind. Looks like he can see to me because he see the vision. That's why we caught it. So he can see. Keep on fighting, and he will get that surgery. So I just want to share with you, I want you to repeat after me. It is our duty to fight.
It is our duty to fight.
It is our freedom to fight for our freedom.
It is our freedom to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other.
We must love each other.
And support each other.
And support each other.
We have nothing to lose.
We have nothing to lose.
But our chains.
But our chains.
Say it again. We must lead us.
We have nothing to lose.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other.
We must love each other.
And support each other.
And support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains. Black liberation means all of us or none of us. Let's keep fighting. Oh, community.
Powerful words, Sister Rosalind from Mass Liberation. At this time, I want to transition the duty of the MC to none other than the son of Imam Jamil Khairi. We had our local organizations and national organizations speak. And when I knew about Imam Jamil and his history in this country, I didn't know rappers and how many people from the movement knew about Imam Jamil. So we invited a few of them here who are gathered, and Khairi will have the honor of introducing them. So I'll defer to him to take it from here.
Appreciate it, bro. So like he said, a lot of rappers, a lot of influential people knew my father, and so I kind of grew up around these folks. So that's why I'm kind of taking over this MC thing, because I know these guys. But before we get into that, I did want to just kind of address the moving to Atlanta thing. We've been working on trying to get him moved to Atlanta from when he was in Colorado, et cetera, all the way to now where he's in Tucson. Georgia has refused to take him back as the state, as far as the state is concerned. But we're still making this request now to the federal government. He's being housed in federal institutions. There is a federal institution in Atlanta. And so if they're asking us what we want, that's what we want. The federal government can't grant us our exoneration that we're looking for. That has to come through the state of Georgia. But they can grant us the opportunity to fight fairly, and that's by transferring him to Atlanta and allowing him to be a part of this judicial process, even if it's temporary in their mind. Just do it during the review, and if we don't win it, which we should, inshallah, then you can move him back to wherever you want to. But right now, while he's under review and he needs to be accessible, that's what we're asking for, that the federal government house him in their federal facility in Atlanta, Georgia. With that, I want to kind of just transition into our next speaker. Imam and Dr. Omar Suleiman is one of the most influential people that I know personally, with millions of followers. But one of the things that impresses me about him is that he does the work as well. He told me a long time ago if I needed him to be anywhere, he would be there. And in this day and age, that's not always true. And there's a big difference, to me at least, between being an influencer and being influential. And usually you don't have both. But with Imam Omar Suleiman, we do. And so I'm going to leave it at that and let him do his thing. Shukran, Imam.
Peace be unto you all. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. I want to begin with a statement that Imam Jamil said that I hope we all memorize by the time we leave, because ultimately all of us are trying to capture our emotions about Imam Jamil, about the grave injustice that's been committed against him, about the system that has committed that same injustice against so many more, names that we know and names that we don't. And there's no better man to represent what has happened to Imam Jamil than Imam Jamil himself. My name is Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly H-Rap Brown. I am a devoted servant of Allah and an unwavering devotee to His cause. For more than 30 years, I have been tormented and persecuted by my enemies for reasons of race and belief. My name is Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly H-Rap Brown. I am a sincere, devoted follower of Allah and an unwavering devotee to His cause. For more than 30 years, I have been tormented and persecuted for reasons of race and belief. Imam Jamil is a victim of a system that was historically designed as part of a greater legislative ecosystem to demean and disenfranchise black people in America. And Imam Jamil is also a victim of a system that specifically was designed in the aftermath of 9/11 to frame Muslim leaders with crimes that they did not commit and rob ordinary Muslims of civil liberties that have yet to be restored. And I asked myself before coming here, if I was in the place that Imam Jamil was, and he was in the place that I am in, and he got the call that someone was being unjustly held for a crime that they did not commit, what would he do? And I knew right away that Imam Jamil would go to Atlanta, he would go to Tucson, maybe he'd come to Louisiana where we're both from. He would go wherever he had to be, not because of who I am, but because of who he is. An innocent man is being unjustly held for a crime that he did not commit. An innocent man is being unjustly held for a crime that he did not commit. Before we talk about him as H. Rap Brown and what he has meant to the movement in America, and before we talk about him as Imam Jamil Al-Amin and what he has meant to so many Muslims in America and all people, combining rare talents and rare qualities and possessing a fearlessness and courage that we have barely seen in our lifetimes. Before we talk about all of that, if you don't agree with a single thing that Imam Jamil has ever said or done, and if he was not a recognizable name, one of the living legends of the movement that is now being erased from history books, an innocent man is being unjustly held for a crime that he did not commit. The perpetrator of that crime has admitted in various ways to the crime that our Imam has been framed with. The fact that we have to protest, the fact that we have to make a journey to Tucson is in and of itself an indictment of the system that has falsely indicted him. Is in and of itself an unmasking of the disgraceful way in which our people have been put away. And so I want us to just take a moment and appreciate those of you that came from near and those of you that came from far, that if Imam Jamil was out of prison, Imam Jamil would have been the first one to come to Arizona when the footage of Muhammad Muhaymin being killed by police officers here was released. Imam Jamil would have been the first, I have no doubt, to come to Dallas for Botham Jean and Jordan Edwards, or Tatiana Jefferson in Fort Worth. And he would have had something important to say and do and be looked to in the wake of the horrific killing of George Floyd. Imam Jamil would have been organizing protests in solidarity with oppressed peoples around the world. You know how we know? Because in 1995, Imam Jamil led the largest protest of the Bosnian genocide in front of the United Nations. 18,000 people. Our Imam led that. Imam Jamil would have been speaking on Palestine and all of the other causes that are so near and dear to our heart. Imam Jamil would have been shedding tears and teaching us how to have perspective and organize for people that we seem to be too tired to move for. Imam Jamil was never tired. They did everything they possibly could to break the man's will. And you didn't see a hint of exhaustion in his voice. He would come out of every single one of those movements, every single time he was harassed by the system, every single time Imam Jamil came out stronger, and we know, inshallah, that he will come out stronger, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. God willing, Imam Jamil will come out even stronger, inshallah. I heard his message from prison, and the power in his voice for 2 decades did not wither an atom's worth. It was incredible. He's still teaching. He's still teaching. Whether that's us reading about him, or reading what he has written, or hearing those few words, or living by his example, he's still teaching. Now here's the challenge for you and I. It is an principle that there is not a greater collective outcry for the injustice that's been committed against Imam Jamil. And for that, we collectively should plead guilty. However, let this be the catalyst for his freedom. Right now, we're here to get him transferred back to Atlanta, inshallah, but we will not be satisfied until he is free, inshallah. And so those of you that are here and had friends that you invited that didn't come, remind them that he would have come for them. Those of you that came from far, remind them that the next protest, wherever it is, wherever he's moved to, until freedom, inshallah, is worth their time and their journey, because he would have done it for each and every single one of us, whether he knew us or not, whether we were influencers or not, whether we were imams or not. Imam Jamil would have advocated for you. And so we're here for him, and inshallah, God willing, we will have him amongst us in this life, and we pray that God gather us in paradise as well with those truthful ones. Ameen. Thank you all for coming. Assalamu alaikum.
Shukran once again, Imam. See? Influential. Alright, so this next dude, he is my brother. We've known each other my whole life. He's older than me. And we share some pain, that we can relate to. His father was murdered by the FBI. My father was taken from me by the FBI. And so, we share that kind of brotherhood as well. But he's much like Imam Omar Suleiman. Whenever I call him for whatever, he's gonna be there. He's also a funny guy. So I'm gonna bring him up and let him do his thing. He got a great Imam Jamil impersonation, so he might give y'all that. Umar Reagan.
Salam, peace. First, of course, thank everybody for coming out. This is it's touching that you would actually take the time and support. But I also want to ask you all to renew your intentions for why you are here, because some of us may have been coming for photo ops, some of us may have been coming, to get pictures with celebrities, or maybe coming as opportunists, oh, I can get to meet this person, or maybe coming for any other reason. But I humbly ask you to check within inside of your heart and put yourself inside of the same situation that Imam Jamil is in. And if he was there, or if the roles was reversed, you would want somebody speaking up for you. You would want somebody taking the time to support you. So let's renew our intentions. Me first and foremost, my intentions is to be here to aid and support an oppressed man, a leader, a father, a husband, an imam, just an amazing living legend that's been doing work on behalf of humanity for years. He's proven himself with his works, and I'm here to support the injustice that's being done to him. And I'm hoping that you all are doing the same, and we can renew our intentions for the reason why we're here today. I'm excited to share this platform with my brother Kyrie and with the workers. I know this pain. As Kyrie mentioned, my father was shot and killed by the FBI 20 times for a crime that he did not commit. 2009. And my father was friends with Imam Jamil. Imam Jamil was more of a mentor to me. He gave me a job at the age of 16 and taught me how to retail. I ran his store. He trusted me with his goods while he was on traveling, doing speaking engagements, even at 16 years old. He personally taught me how to do the books and the numbers, how to be an accountant. A lot of the things that I'm doing today, I learned from Imam Jamil as a youth. So for myself, it's personal, but it's also on behalf of my father, who is not able to be here to support his friend. For the injustice, as my father was going in and out of prison until they banned my father from going to visit Imam Jamil. The power of two friends, the love and the heart. And to tell you something, what Imam Omar Suleiman was mentioning, how do we know that Imam Jamil would be here to support? My father drove a taxi cab in Detroit, and they tried to rob him. And they shot my father, and the bullet went inside of his turban and shot him in the head. And Imam Jamil got the phone call at night. This happened on Thursday night. Can I tell you, Imam Jamil got in his car from Atlanta and drove from Atlanta to Detroit to visit my father in the hospital. Made sure that he was coherent and able to talk to him. Are you all right? You good? He said, I'm fine. Everything is good. He got back in his car and drove back to Atlanta. So when you talk about when Imam Omar Suleiman says who he was, this is who he is. This is who he was. So it may look like a small few people that's here and the numbers are now outpouring. But I can tell you, if you even second guessed yourself, with all of the rhetoric and the nonsense and the stories that they put out, because you only hear a one-sided story of this man on a large scale, which happens to most of us. You can only hear a one-sided story. Most of us feel, you question, or you're filled with doubts, and you say, well, I'm here to say for sure, seconding with Kyrie, Imam Omar, and all of the organizations, know for sure Imam Jamil is innocent. Imam Jamil is continuously being targeted. He's being oppressed because the power of him, that he's been blessed with this power, with this gift, just to be able to inspire people to live right, to do good, to be good. So, in short, I love him. I love him dearly because I have a personal relationship with Imam Jamil from 16. It's been years since I've seen him, which actually makes me love Kyrie even more and follow his lead. So there's no more big brother, little brother. There's just whoever Allah blesses with the banner to stand up and hold and speak out. And that's what we're supposed to be. And that's who we are. And we move and we support and we stand up. The one thing that my father used to say all the time, he said, if you're scared, just say you're scared. If you're scared, just say you're scared. And if you're not, then just stand up for the honor and the truth that you've been blessed with, that you've been created with. And it's time for us to get back to our natural source of that honor that we created with, and live with that honor, that integrity that we're created with, and stop allowing other people to manipulate us with words or with other ideas or other opinions, and we start living by different codes of lying, of manipulating. Just be truthful within ourselves as individuals, and be truthful for others. But we got to start with ourselves. We have to change these types of things. There's informants right here among us right now. Stop being an informant. You understand? Stop allowing people to buy into this, where you selling out the next man for this system, for a false promise that they're giving you. Stop doing that. It's a waste of your time. Be truthful. Be truthful. Be upright. It's better for you. For it's a promise from the Creator who says, whatever you put forth will always come back to you. And it's very important for us to really think about that, because it will come back. And it will come back, and it comes back for you, for your family. It comes back for their family. And you don't need it. You don't need it. This is not speaking truth to power. This is just speaking truth to people who've forgotten, because they don't have power. And we can't believe that they have power. We have to believe that there's no power except for with the Creator. And if we believe that and we keep moving, whatever is written for us, we live by. As we've seen the example so many times. When they threw Abraham in the burning fire. When they threw Prophet Joseph or Yusuf inside of the well. Inside of the water well. And when Prophet Yunus was swallowed by the well. So there are powerful men that have been in these situations, blessed and given a purpose from the Creator. And so have all of us. We've all been given a purpose by the Creator. Let's live our purpose. Let's get back to our truth. Let's get back to our honor, the ingredients of what makes us a human being. And let's live upright. Thank you for having me. Salam.
Appreciate you. He said he wasn't gonna give y'all the Imam Jamil today. He said he was real serious today, but I got another comedian for you coming up. But before we get to that, Umar mentioned some things about one side of the story and having the opportunity to be able to tell our story. Umar actually owns a production company called Halalywood, and the purpose of that is for us to have a platform in which we can tell our stories without it being guided or misguided by whatever production studios we end up working with. And I'm actually working with my brother Masood, who's here as well, on the Imam story. And so no matter who we end up producing, you know, that with, and wherever it ends up, Halalywood will 100% be that first credit at the top. So, you know, we have to, you know, he says living your purpose. We also have to support those who are living in their purpose, and he's doing that. And so, you know, shout out to you and Halalywood, bro. Outside of that, we had a brother named Tone Trump, rapper, activist, who was actually en route to be here, but he had some scheduling mix-up, and then he had a booking situation where he booked for Phoenix a little bit too late, and isn't going to be able to make it. So, you know, he's here with us in spirit. We know that he wanted to be here. He shows up and shows out whenever we ask him to do anything for Imam Jamil, and so we really appreciate that. But I was surprised to see my brother came with my other brother. I got a lot of brothers. Moses the comic. I know him as Musa Suleiman. We grew up together. His father and my father were also very close. I was very close to his father, and I'm very close to him. And so I appreciate him being here. Once again, this is the third influencer who was also influential. So this is Moses the comic.
Can y'all make some noise for this organization right now? The whole event. And everybody that y'all saw speaking, we're going to be giving an award for best sign. Because a lot of y'all got some real nice sign, brother. You in the lead right now because your penmanship is immaculate, okay? So make some noise for that brother right there. Okay, listen. I know that we've been here and everybody's been giving him a lot of love, but I really need us to make a round of applause for our brother Kyrie right now one time. Because I grew up with Kyrie. Our fathers were very close. I grew up in and out of the West End community. And I lost my father in 2010. And we're here and we take ownership over our Imam, right? We take ownership over our Imam because of our personal connection with him. But a lot of us don't realize, or maybe you do, that he's somebody's father. He's somebody's husband. And this is this man's father, and he hasn't had him for over 20 years. And so it's an injustice, like the Imam spoke about. It's an injustice. Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And it's been an injustice that we have not had our Imam, but that this man has not had his father, that his mother hasn't had her husband. This is an injustice. When I grew up in the West End community, this Imam Jamil was like a hero to us. Right? And even with this shirt, Super Muslim, he was like Superman to us. And if you know Imam Jamil, y'all know he was like 8'1". He's very tall. I remember I asked the Imam one time, why was he so tall? He said, so I could reach stuff on the top shelf. So he had a sense of humor. I loved him. But the Imam, he literally cleaned up that community. And he was a hero to us growing up because of what he did. He used to speak to us, and my father, he used to speak to us about a concept, and I want to talk to you about two concepts. The first thing that I remember from the Imam talking to us about was like planting seeds of like residual barakah. Barakah meaning like blessings. So when you plant seeds, when you do good for people, when you give charity to people by things that you say, things that you do, it plants a seed that keeps growing, right? Like reap, sow, harvest. So everything that the Imam has done over the past 40, 50 years, it has been seeds that have been planted worldwide that have grown with us, that have grown in communities and everything that he's done. The second thing I remember him talking about, and it's two ayahs in Quran that talks about, verily with hardship comes ease, and verily with difficulty comes ease. So Allah talks about for every, he says it twice, he repeats it twice. So for every hardship that you encounter, there is twice as much ease. And ease is that comfort, it's that reward, right? So Allah is saying that why do we think if we're going to have any comfort, any reward, any ease, that we won't have difficulty? The difficulty is a prerequisite to having the ease. And everything that the Imam has gone through, everything that you've heard about, the injustices being done to him, those are the difficulties. And the ease and the comfort, inshallah, is him not just being freed, but even as he's not, because the Imam is not defined by this building or the prison that he's in or any of these devils that have just been having injustice against him. His ease, his comfort is with Allah. His ease and his comfort is with his family and with everyone around the world that loves him, that continues to pray for him. So when you leave here today, please do not just come to this rally and you share the flyer and you tweet and whatever it is. We cannot forget the Imam. You have to constantly keep his memory alive. You have to pray for him, and we have to fight until justice is served. So I want to thank all of y'all for coming out here. Kyrie, I love you. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. And we pray for ease and comfort for your family, for the difficulty and the hardship that y'all have gone through. And we thank you for sharing your father with us all of these years. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you always, Musa. Yeah, we used to get in trouble running around conferences like ISNA and ICNA together, and his pops would be looking for us, and we knocking stuff over, doing stuff we're not supposed to. So we go way back, and we were delinquents, and now we're upstanding young men. So that's how it usually goes. But I have one more. When I say brother like this means we're close to the same age, constituent, so to speak, that always has my back whenever I need him for anything, especially if it's for my father. As you can hear when these people come up here and speak, it's not just because our brotherhood comes from their relationship with my father. They usually knew him longer than they knew me, and I just came along, and they were like, we gotta love him too. So this next brother is Masood Abdul Haq. He's a writer, he's an entrepreneur. He's the one who's helping me write the story for my father so that we can have something riveting for you, kind of like the Central Park 5 did, and more recently with Fred Hampton. So I'm gonna let him also do his thing, and you know, we all actually grew up together and we work on things together, and it's great to see that we can still hit each other. And you know, one of us lives in Cali, one of us lives in Philly, one of us lives in Oklahoma, one of us lives in Atlanta, Miami, and we can all just drop what we're doing and be there for each other. So alhamdulillah for that, and that's the strength of Islam, and so we got to make sure that we hold on to that rope. Sweet.
Assalamu alaikum. So I'm not on the schedule at all, so he put me on the spot, but I got you though. I'm gonna speak from the perspective of somebody who grew up under the protection of Imam Jamil Al-Amin in his community. And the best way that I can think to do that impromptu is to share something I wrote shortly after the incident that led to him being incarcerated. Let's pause and rewind. This time, the March of 2000. We got 2 Fulton deputies in doo-doo brown trousers, armed with a Crown Vic warrants and a little power, not worried about the hours, strapping their vest in place, pulling up late to Oak Street and West End Place. Didn't even think to bring the gauge with them just in case, because they ain't never seen his frame, just the suspect's face. Now he ain't swole, but he over 6'4", and posing in the trench coat, and they supposed to know that he had shot at Popo before, according to COINTELPRO. But now he on the stove, so they banging on the door, not knowing that he behind them in the Benz playing low. And suddenly come a killer with, quote, cold gray eyes, with a 223 and a 9 trying to take both their lives. Then 12 return fire invoking more chaos. Gun smoke, Shawty got that okay corral. God damn, got one in the gut, one in the nuts banging it. Took one in the right upper arm, so now he's slanging it. Left the scene leaking, thinking it's got to prove that on any given sequence, even cops could snooze. Never did get caught slipping, no, the op went smooth. Took his earpiece out, badge off, and watched the news. Watch the news. Talk about how they got that dude that shot those 2 cops with that cop back tool. And they screaming out the name, but nah, they take that down. Now put that mugshot up for H-Rap Brown. And they quiet anybody that might expose their lies, but we still ain't seen no killer with, quote, cold gray eyes. Am I right? Right? So there's some inconsistencies. Now we've got more detail, but when I was a 18-year-old kid in Atlanta, Georgia in 2000, this was the leader of our community. This was the person who protected me from the influences of the drug dealers and the pimps and the prostitutes and the corrupt cops. This was the person who allowed me to walk past $1 million drug corner every day with a kufi on my head, protected, because we knew that they weren't going to touch those who were under his care. We knew for a fact that the respect that he had, not only as the imam, not only as a leader of the community, but as a civil rights and human rights leader that is known across the world, they weren't going to touch me, right? So we grew up in this place, we were goldfish and we had to act like piranhas. And we were able to continue to grow and be successful men with the example that we had of the men that were surrounding Imam Jamil Al-Amin, of Imam Jamil himself being accessible through the masjid, through prayer, being accountable of somebody who is upstanding, morally upright, and a great example for anyone with or without a father. And there were many who didn't have fathers. So Imam Jamil represented so much more than he's portrayed, so much more than we can just read in the book. Without Imam Jamil Al-Amin, there wouldn't be so many of the young men, the grown men, the adult men that you've seen today, and many more who he's inspired across the country, across the world. So in a society where masculinity is frowned upon, in a society where we are not encouraged to have the dynamic families, what do you call it? The family, man, woman, and wife. They want to eliminate people who expound those principles. They want to eliminate people who show that if you believe in what's right, you stand for justice, then you can improve the community around you. They remove the examples and they make an example out of them, then they scare people into hiding. But that's why this event is so important. That's why this event is so powerful. Because through it all, 20 years later, 20 plus years later, we're still here. And we're still here to fight for Imam Jamil. Assalamu alaikum.
Appreciate you, Sue. Now, this is what I mean by, like, they were in my age group. This next brother is also a brother, but he's kind of more like an uncle. I've known him for a long time. Imam Khalid Griggs. He's one of the, no, he's the reason I know Wasik. So, you know, when I needed help, once again, he answered the call immediately, helped me organize with some organizations that weren't easy to organize with at other times, and since that day he's been there, whether it was just me calling him to check in or whether it was an actual event that we needed him at. He's here, and he's here in person, he's here digitally whenever I need him, and like I said, he's an older brother. He's with my up there. He's one of my father's constituents, and so this is Uncle Imam Khalid for me. So this is Imam Khalid Griggs.
Okay, enough of the old people jokes. I bear witness that there's no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is a servant and messenger. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Brothers and sisters, I want to say at the outset that the numbers that we have here today are not truly representative of the support that Imam Jamil Al-Amin, the support that he has. That even while those of us who are physically present today, we don't know, perhaps millions of people around the world, at least in this country, have watched every word, every action that has taken place in front of this courthouse in Tucson today. So there's no reason for any of us to be disheartened, but for all oppressed people in this country, for all political prisoners in this country. Our dear sister mentioned that this was Black August. The origin of this Black August, if there's anybody who doesn't know, it was because of the misuse, the abuse of political prisoners in this country. That these were individuals like Imam Jamil Al-Amin, who stand oppression. That Black jobs of the first apartheid state in the world, now known as the United States of America. That those who were on those ships after being captured and kidnapped and brought into the Western Hemisphere, they were a part of a Black January, February, March, April, no matter what the month would be, whenever they were resisting captivity, whenever they were resisting that so-called Middle Passage, whenever they resisted, once they got on the shores of this land. So we had our Black Augusts and Februaries, we had our young brothers, we had Christian preachers amongst the enslaved population, we had Denmark Vesey, we had a Nat Turner, we had so many others during this period. Imam Jamil represents a continuation of this struggle against oppression in this country. It didn't start just during the 1960s and the 1970s. It started from the time, as I said, when we were first brought to these shores and we resisted those systems of oppression. I'm not going to take long, but I want to just remind myself and remind you, because some of you may not know what I'm about to say, and you somehow can't make the connection between this struggle of Black and African people in this country. And why are so many of these individuals now Muslim? Let me try to give a brief connection. Maybe we would understand it better if we knew that at least 30% of enslaved Africans that ended up in what we call the United States today came here as Muslim. 30%. If you look in the Caribbean and you look in South America, it's a much higher percentage of Muslims. Their boat ride was shorter because perhaps they were more resistant to this forced passage, this forced trip to this so-called new world. They were kicked off of these horror ships much earlier. But right here in the United States, there has been this intertwinement of the struggle and liberation for people of African descent and Muslims from the time that this country was actually formed. So it comes as no surprise to me, it should come as no surprise to you that our beloved martyr, Malcolm X, Al-Hajj Malik Al-Shabazz, it should come as no surprise that a man who shone so much light and shown so much guidance to a community that's struggling for an identity and struggling to free and cast off the systems of oppression in this country, it should come as no surprise that he chose Islam as the highest form of liberation. That he saw Islam not just as a personal faith, but as a tool of liberation, not just for himself, but for all people in this country. You know his story. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but I just want to say that Imam Jamil Al-Amin represents that same kind of spirit. Imam Jamil Al-Amin is an individual who was not just a leader amongst Black African American Muslims. His leadership expanded so much further than that. He was not just a leader of Muslims itself. I can remember, I think it was in 1995, Imam Jamil invited me to come out to, I think it was Kansas City, Missouri, maybe not Kansas, one of the Kansas City, I forgot what state. He invited me to come out and be a part of a gang truce summit that was being held in Kansas City in the mid-90s. And just like I had tried to respond to any call by our Imam, I responded to this call. I went to this gang summit. And I got there and it was very clear from the very beginning, wow, how you in a crowd here today. I don't know if you've ever been around, knowingly been around so many people that would be classified as gangbangers today. But I have to say, out of all the gang leaders, out of all the individuals, elected officials and others who were talking to these gangbangers, talking to these members of these gangs, Imam Jamil, in my humble opinion, held the respect of every man in that audience. As a matter of fact, and let me divert just a little bit, digress just a moment. As a matter of fact, it was time for Salatul Jummah. You know, this is a special day of worship for the Muslims. It's on Friday. And the conference was going on Friday, and the moderator said, well, we're going to have an hour-and-a-half break because the Muslims are going in this room observe their Jummah, their Friday prayers. And so you can just go take your lunch. You can go and take a break, refresh yourself. But Imam Jamil is going to give the khutbah. He's going to give the sermon. And I can attest that 99% of those attendees in that room were not Muslim. But I will also say that over 90 to 95 people in that room did not leave their seats. They wanted to hear the message of Imam Jamil Al-Amin, not just a message of a gang truce, but they looked at this person as an individual that could bring guidance to the larger community. I can recall, and forgive me, you got to bear with, since Kyrie put it out there about I'm one of the old uncles, I'll fall into the old uncle role and just bear with me for a moment. As a union organizer in southern Alabama and in Mississippi. And every Monday before I would drive down highway, I think it's 65, to go down into South Alabama, I would stop by Imam went in South. So many people of African descent were dumped in this area as enslaved people, that every place I went, when those individuals found out that I was living in Atlanta, almost without exception, they asked me, do you know H-Rap Brown? Every one I met back up in those backwoods, back up in the way of the highway where streets in front of their houses had names like Coon Trail and Rabbit Hollow and all of these things. They knew not Imam Jamil, but they knew H-Rap Brown. And so many of them would tell me, these are grown men, manhood and courage in rap. One brother who became, in Utah County, Alabama, became the first African-American sheriff in the county, told me that when he met rap for the first time, he was afraid. But he said that after I got to know this gentleman, I realized that he was not some raving lunatic, that this was a man who was on fire, not to hurt or harm anyone, but he was on fire for justice. Because of his courage, I became a better man. I became a better father. If anybody has said that they have been in the presence of Imam Jamil and then walked away from him, and they spent any time with him and he didn't say, what can I do for you? Is there anything I can do to help? You have not been in his presence. Bear with me, one more old man story. I remember when I got the word that my friend Imam Jamil was locked up in Cobb County Jail. This is on the pretext, first, before he was even charged, well, you didn't show up in court for a traffic ticket, so it was in Cobb County, you didn't show up in court, so we're gonna lock you up, and this is what they did. Then these other charges, these bogus charges came. And I visited him in Cobb County. I visited him in Fulton County. I visited him when he was up in federal penitentiary in Pennsylvania. There was not a time under those horrible circumstances that he was languishing under, that in party, that he didn't ask me, is there anything I can do for you? This is not just something that he would just say as some kind of, this is my, what you know me by. This is a heartfelt sentiment. Brothers and sisters, the responsibility and duty that we have to bring about the freedom of our dear brother Imam Jamil Al-Amin cannot be overstated. It cannot be exaggerated. When we reflect upon famous political prisoners around the world or in this country, no matter how grim, no matter how hopeless it may have seemed for any of them to ever see the light of freedom again, just think about the 27 years that Nelson Mandela, many of those years on the hellhole of Robben Island, looking as if he would never get free because of his involvement in the struggle to cast off maybe the second apartheid state in the world after the United States in South Africa. After 27 years, the Lord of Imam Jamil, the Lord of Malcolm X, the Lord even of Nelson Mandela, because there's only one God for everybody and everything. Said, as the Quran tells us, all he has to do is say, kun fayakun, be, and it is. And so it's nothing for Imam Jamil next week, and this is with a slight exaggeration, but I'm saying it like this for a purpose. It's nothing for Imam Jamil next week to be standing with us, to be back with his family, to be reunited with the country and the nation and the world that he has spent his whole life serving. You know, brothers and sisters, in closing, you know, this struggle, this kind of dedication that he has shown to the oppressed people in this country reminds me of a saying of the Prophet of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, peace be upon him. It's recorded in prophetic traditions that one day one of his companions came to him and asked him, "O Messenger of Allah, who is the best amongst us?" Now naturally, if I was sitting around and heard a question like that, I would expect him to say, well, the one who knows the most Quran, the one who has done this, the one who has done that. But the Prophet of Islam said to this man, the best amongst us are the ones who are most beneficial to the people, to their communities. And I say that in our generation, that Imam Jamil Al-Amin represents the best from amongst us. Because his entire life before Islam and as a Muslim was serving the people. How can he help make the lives of the people better than what it is? How can it be better after I'm gone than it was before I came? So again, I pray that we leave this place today inspired and encouraged. Know that so many tens of thousands of people and eventually millions of people will see and hear and remember what was done here today. That for a person like myself, you see, I have my sweat rag. I have to take it with me everywhere I go, in summer, winter, spring, or fall. For me to come out into this desert environment, that it would have to be a cause like Imam Jamil Al-Amin, and your presence here today gives me hope. It gives me strength to continue to try to start and continue the process of free Imam Jamil.
Right now!
Assalamu alaikum.
So that was our last speaker for the day. I'm going to bring Wasik back up in a second, and he's going to give you some action items and run through some things that, if you feel so inclined, we'd like you to do. But before I do that, I want to say thank you once again. As I said earlier, it's been a long fight. I'm tired, but these kind of events give me energy. At times I'm sad. These kind of events kind of help make me a little happier. You know, happiness will come when he gets out, but it makes me feel better. A lot of times I'm angry. These kind of events calm me down. So I appreciate y'all. I appreciate everyone who showed up, whether it was the organizers, whether it was local people or people who came from across the country. I appreciate you. I know my father appreciates you, and hopefully no one leaves here feeling like this was a waste of their time, because it was not. The message was heard, the message will be delivered, and that million number he's saying is not like far-fetched. Those folks who came and spoke, between them is millions and millions of followers on these platforms, and they'll be posting and things like that, etc. So that number is not a far-fetched number. That's a number that we expect to hit. But again, the fight still continues until, one, they move him home, and then two, they bring him home. And so we couldn't do this without you, and I appreciate y'all.
I know it's getting late, everyone. We're almost done here. I just want to close out the event, and I just want everyone here to do 3 things. The first, follow @_free Imam Jamil on Instagram and Twitter. Students for Imam Jamil on Facebook. Take all your media, your pictures, your videos, email it. Everyone listen to this email: students for Imam Jamil @gmail.com. Everyone write that down. Email all your pictures and videos to students with an S, for F-O-R, Imam, I-M-A-M, Jamil, J-A-M-I-L, @gmail.com. And we're gonna collect all the footage and try to make a video out of this. And the last is to share the live stream, share the event, tag us. And I want everyone to know this link as well. freeimamjamil.com. It has 3 action items for anyone across the world to do. There's an email template on that link tree that emails the authorities of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, who have the authority to transfer Imam Jamil back to Atlanta, Georgia. That's number 1, the email template. Number 2, we have an ongoing launch hood campaign to collect funds for our legal defense. We're in need of funds until Imam Jamil is free. And number 3 is the free rap merch, the shirt that I'm wearing. You can have this at the next protest. You can have this to rep. I've talked to so many people when I'm walking in Walmart, walking out in public, and they ask, hey, who's rap? Who's Imam Jamil? And that's an opportunity for me to convey the message of who Imam Jamil is. All those funds from the merchandise go directly to the legal defense. So you can support in those 3 ways at freeimamjamil.com. And lastly, in Congress, H.R. 2998, House Resolution 2998. Congressman Bobby Rush has introduced federal legislation called the COINTELPRO Resolution, which discloses all the files related to COINTELPRO inspiring all the civil rights leaders in the 60s. There's 23 co-sponsors on there. All your favorite representatives, Representative Rashida Tlaib, she's co-signed that. Andre Carson's co-signed that. So many of them have. I need everyone in this crowd to contact your local Congress member. I believe it's Congressman Grijalva. Email him, write to him, call him. Tell him that we were here in Tucson, in his territory, and we need him to write a letter to the Federal Bureau of Prisons asking for Imam Jamil to be transferred. If you have any questions about that, DM our account @_free Imam Jamil. Again, that's HR 2998. Let your local congressional member know from wherever you are to co-sponsor that legislation, and to know that one of the last targets of COINTELPRO still alive today, A.Trap Brown, they have the opportunity and the honor to free Imam Jamil, formerly known as A.Trap Brown. We're going to have Maghrib prayer for those of the Muslim faith. Right after this, Imam Umar Suleiman will lead us, and the Qibla, the direction of the prayers in this way. I want to thank everyone, all the partners, all the partnering organizations, locally and nationally, and all of our speakers and everyone here today. I want you to go home knowing that 20 minutes away, there's a federal lockdown at USP Tucson. 20 minutes away, one of the reasons we move locations is because they know that we're here. They know that we're organizing. They know that people showed up. They're scared of us. They're scared of the media. We got the people. We got the press. We got our influencers. They are scared at USP Tucson right now. And we have to let them know that we're not giving up, that we're going to continue pressure. We're going to continue to make sure that we write to our congressional members. We complete those action items. We email and call United States Penitentiary Tucson and let them know to transfer Imam Jamil, keep it going, and continue to stay tuned with our updates on Students for Imam Jamil. I want to thank everyone. And with that, we'll close out for Maghrib prayer and close the event. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Excuse me, I just want to make a quick announcement. If there's anyone here who would like to take some water to distribute to unsheltered folks in the area, please feel free to take as much water as you'd like before we leave. I repeat, if there is anyone here who would like to take some water to distribute to unsheltered folks in the area, please feel free to take as much water as you would like before we leave. We will not be able to support you in locating the unsheltered folks to give to. We just want to allow folks to take water along if they are able to share it with unsheltered folks in the area. Please come connect with me and I'll let you get the water to take along.